for me.
Mm-hmm.
But hello everyone. I'm so excited to be here again on Facebook. I've been going live in different places throughout the day.
All over.
Yeah. I'm super excited to be here with Dr. Jazz. I have been on her podcast, Comfort Kills, with a fellow caregiver, Miriam, and just so excited to talk more about, this caregiving space and lost travel found and, just all the things. And for everybody that's in Ohio, like Miami County, y'all be safe. Y'all know I'm crazy. I'm still going live. The sirens are going off, but we're going to pray about it, okay? I'm too excited to let the rain on my parade. So
Show must go on.
Yeah. But okay, so yeah, I just loved our talk on your podcast so much. I wanted to invite you back to speak more and just celebrate.
All right, yeah, be here. And just to let everybody know, Ashley and Miriam were the season 2 double premiere. So I mean, it was that good of a story that they had shared, and I was just like, I've got to make this. And we did so much coordinating between time zones and everything to make it happen, so that it was recorded and got into post production in time for the premiere. So it was pretty awesome. Thank you for sharing on my show.
Yeah, we really did. But, because Miriam is in the Netherlands and, well, we're in the same time zone because you're in Florida, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but yeah, it was so, I love the podcast that we're on with you. Because we really talked about how we have to get out of our comfort zone. And Miriam and I shared how becoming caregiver advocates and speaking for the caregiver, it really got us out of our comfort zones. But the reward for doing so has been so great. I mean, Miriam launched her book on June 10th, last Thursday. I'm launching mine today. And it's just been such a great ride.
Yeah.
And a necessary one.
Yes. And it's been amazing watching the two of you both go through this journey together, after being guests on the show and then just following in on everything you're doing. And when I saw that the book was finally released, I was just like, yes. And then I saw you do the little teaser. Both of you did teasers. And I'm just, I wanted to cry with you. It was so exciting.
I know some people, when I did that, they're like, would you just drop it already? Like, gosh, you're doing all this stuff. I want it now, but it's just a part of the process, a part of the fun with it. I believe in celebrating anything and everything. So, when I decided I wanted to have something virtual and in person, no one was really surprised. So there's been so much that has happened in my life that you'll read about in Lost Travel Found.
I can't wait.
That makes me this way. That makes me want to celebrate anything and everything, because life is so precious. You never know the time that you have or have left, or you just really don't.
Right. You never know that news is coming. You never know if it's going to be you or a family member, a loved one, any of the above. It's hard.
Exactly. And your life can change in an instant, right? That's what happened with me. There's been 2 significant points in my life where my life changed within seconds. And I talk about those in my book, and I know it will resonate with at least one person, if not thousands, hundreds, millions people. I mean, everyone, has either been a caregiver, will be a caregiver, or will need one. or you've been on a grief and healing journey at some point in your life. So this book is not just for caregivers. I mean, caregivers will definitely relate, but I think non-caregivers will relate as well to the book.
And even in our conversation, Ashley, I felt like there were a lot of things that you said as a caregiver that is completely the same thing that we feel as healthcare providers as well. So for those who aren't aware, I'm a registered nurse by trade, work in the pediatric setting in intensive care, and that's exactly how we feel. We feel the same way. Caregiver burnout, we are attached to our patients, maybe not as closely as a family member is to their the person who's diagnosed, but we still do go through very similar emotions with our patients.
Yeah. I mean, you're still taking care of someone, whether it's your, family member or not. So, it's hard to explain if you've not been in that space. Right? Like, I'm sure, if you're talking to family members or friends who are not nurses or doctors and you're trying to tell them about a specific situation, they're probably just looking at you like, what? Like, why it might seem like a complaint,
right?
Versus like, I'm telling you, this is my life, this is my work life, literally. And so, and getting people out of their comfort. So, it can be embarrassing. It can be kind of shocking. But these stories have to be told in order to make changes. In order for there to be a change. Right. I was just talking to a fellow caregiver on my last live, Allison, and she was saying how we as caregivers are so in the shadows until you peel back those curtains. And sometimes people that aren't in those caregiver spaces, they are kind of like, ooh, that's, they don't like to hear it. So they want to hear like, oh, you're happy, you're doing great. Okay, good. I've checked in. All right, on to the next. They don't like it when you tell them, I had to clean up his vomit yesterday. Like, people don't want to hear that, and it's hard to hear that, but it's the reality of things. And those are some of the situations that you're going to read about in my book. There's even a story in my book that my husband didn't even know. And he came into the room and he was crying. And he was like, why didn't you tell me about this certain situation? And I told him, I said, in the midst of you in your battle, that was not the right time for me to complain to you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, that's not the right time. You didn't need that from me. You needed, you go, boy, you got this. We gonna beat cancer, bleep, bleep, so, that's what you needed. You didn't need me to complain about stuff that I was going through because of your cancer. And, I had to work through those type of things, like realizing that I'm mad at his cancer and not necessarily him, but the cancer. And, all those type of things that, I don't know what your range of working with caregivers for people are, the caregivers that, for the patients that you see. I don't know if you comfort them in any type of way, but, the doctor team that he's had have been amazing, as far as, comfort and keeping us updated. They don't sugarcoat anything. Sometimes I'm like, well, you could have said that in a different way, but they have from day one told us, we're going to be honest with you. And that's what they've been, which I think is very important for as a caregiver, because there's so much on our plates. We just need to know what's going on, what's the next step.
Right.
And I think something should, be set in place for caregivers, because sometimes we have to search for information and we might not ever find it.
Right. Or find the wrong information, right? Be misled because of the inaccurate, uncredible information that you're seeing.
Right. Exactly. And it's been like an uphill battle, and that's something like Miriam and I are trying to alleviate, trying to work through, because the system is kind of set up for us to fail as caregivers. And heck, I'll say even the patient, like sometimes it just depends upon, excuse me, the illness or disease. But sometimes I feel like, is there really truly help for me? And it wasn't like, I remember one time there was like a year into my caregiving journey, I found out a piece of financial advice. And I was like, well, how come y'all didn't tell me that a year ago, that I could have saved on mileage or, something like that. So, it's just little things like that is what we're trying to help other caregivers. Like, hey, we figured this out. We're letting you know so that
no, that's amazing.
you don't go through the same things that we did.
Exactly. That's amazing, Ashley, that you guys are doing that, and that you found a gap, you found where there's lack of information, and now you're going to fill that void and with what and continue to be a resource for others, and that's really important too. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so I actually, because like I was saying before we went live, I was reading your media kit to learn a little bit more about you and your background, and I was like sobbing because like all of the things. But what really resonated with me was the fact that even though we had this really intimate conversation, a couple months ago, I didn't know that you were a cancer survivor. And I found that out just yesterday or 2 days ago. But I wanted to read a part of my book that you probably could relate to, even though you are, by trade a caregiver. I think you could relate to this, being the patient. So if you don't mind, I wanted to read a little bit. And I think you told me you read just a sentence of what I'm about to read, because you didn't want to know.
I wanted to have raw emotions when I heard it the first time. So I'm bracing myself with some tissue here.
Let me see which one I was going to do here. I think this is the one I was going to read. Okay. So I got it here. As we were all sitting in the family waiting room, it seemed surreal, like it wasn't really happening. This wasn't our real life. I knew that this was going to be a long surgery. They had predicted anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. As I sat back in the waiting room and looked around, there were so many people in it. And again, I was amazed at how many people have ailments, which brings them to this point. These experiences continually opened my mind to be more aware of my own body and how you treat yourself or don't. I didn't really have time to focus on me solely. Even though I went on my travels throughout 2017, I still couldn't solely focus on me. I was constantly checking in and stressing out, almost regretting that I had even left. But having to sit in the waiting room made me think, and I became more aware of the reality that this could be me in my future, even if I don't take care of myself. If I don't take care of myself. But who are we kidding? My total focus was on Troy. And I hate waiting rooms. I'll just say that now.
I hate waiting games in general.
Yeah. Yes. It's hard sitting in a waiting room and not, you're waiting every time the phone buzzes or there's a page and you're kind of like,
is that for me? Yeah.
Like, okay, what's going on? What, what's happening now type of thing. And going through what I went through with my husband, it's been just this whole process of, for life, I know I'm going to have to hurry up and wait, because for life, he's going to have tests done because of he's had cancer. And I'm sure you can relate to that. Like, just the whole hurry up and wait. Like, you need to hurry up and schedule this appointment because we need to do tests, but now we're going to make you wait a week to get the results.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I and that's why I stopped at like sentence number 2 when you sent the snippet to me, because I know that feeling from a patient perspective. When I received a phone call and I was driving my kids home, and all I hear is, Mrs. Sandoval, you have your test results came back inconclusive, and we need to do more to figure out what's going on. And and then everything else is like that Charlie Brown mode where it's just, you don't hear anything anymore. But what I did hear very loud and clear was, we need to schedule your next exam, and meanwhile, you can look up this information on cancer.org. And that's all I hear. All I heard was inconclusive exam and then cancer.org.
And then cancer.
And that's all I heard. Something, wait. What are you saying? And now I'm having to wait. It's military medicine. It's Army medicine. So I'm having to wait 3-4 weeks before I finally get in for a biopsy. And then we wait another couple of weeks for biopsy results to come back. And so that's why I'm saying, like, this whole waiting game, I get it. I understand from a patient perspective just how difficult that is, because you never know. And, I have family members, I have friends who reach out to me and say, my doctor wants to run this and this test or this and this diagnostic to rule out such and such. And, and I have to kind of calm them down, because now they're already like on the brink of what's going on with me. I'm going to die soon. And I have to say to them, listen, there's a difference between diagnostic and diagnosis. And so until you have a diagnosis, don't stress yourself out, just let yourself understand that a diagnostic is to help rule things out so that we can start checking things off the list of what it could possibly be. I try to remind, anytime now that we're all going up in age and everybody's got this or that going on, they've got MRI tests that they need to do, CAT scans that they need to do, they have a weird boil going on somewhere on their body. I keep reminding them, we have to take ourselves off the ledge as a patient, as family members. Take yourself off the ledge. Remember, it's diagnostic versus diagnosis. Until you have a conclusive diagnosis, don't go there yet. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. And then, when we get there, just wait until we get there. And usually, so that's the fortunate side of things. But I get it. I hear you. And thank you for sharing that story. It's that from a healthcare provider perspective, it's another thing that I always try to do, is be as empathetic and compassionate as possible, understanding that maybe the family might seem a little difficult, seem a little uptight or whatever it is, but it's because they're undergoing so much stress already.
Right.
They just want answers. They want transparency. They want answers, and they want somebody to be kind to them and explain to them as things are happening, and don't leave them in the dark.
Exactly. And thank you for sharing your story. That's very powerful as well. And I think there's something cathartic, if that's the right word, in sharing your story and being open, because you don't know who you're going to touch. And that's what my book is all about, just sharing my story and, in turn, helping someone else that might be going through the same thing or along the same journey, because you just don't know you honestly don't know what some people are battling or going through. You really don't.
And it's not a cliche phrase. It really is the truth. It very much is the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to have these open conversations just to keep our minds and our hearts open. And I've been able to meet amazing people like yourself along the way of this journey of just sharing our stories and just being open and honest about it. So For everyone tuning in or that will be in the future, please, I dropped the link for Lost Travel Found. Go order yours. If you would prefer a signed copy, you can DM me as well, and we can get that worked out. Dr. Jazz, Comfort Kills podcast. You can find it on all the podcasting, networks that you can, and YouTube. That's right. So please reach out to Dr. Jazz if you're listening, something resonated with you. If you like to be on her podcast, I'm sure she would love to, feature you. If something resonated with you from what I said, please go get Lost Travel Found. It is out here. It's actually #1 new release for the caregiving space, which is pretty awesome. I don't know how. I'm not asking questions. I'm just thanking God. So just getting it into the hands of people that will need it and be better for it. So thank you so much for doing this with me. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for having me. It's an honor.
Of course. Until next time.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.